Peace. It surpasses all understanding. Um, Barry. uh, cool dude, man. Back in the days when I was a counselor, um, I worked in three separate facilities over the course of my career, 13 years. Some simultaneously at more than one facility. Um, but as counselors, and I think it's really relevant. Um, pardon me for one moment. Pardon me for one moment. Yeah. Excuse me. I think it's really relevant because in light of recent experiences that I've shared in and over um, since last December and within the last 3 years or so, um, having had certain experiences and um, our relationship to ourself and to our friends, our family, our strangers on the street, and having a certain sense of um, objectivity in relationships, and it becomes increasingly more challenging to maintain objectivity in an intimate relationship. For example, and I'll use my a former marriage as an example. Excuse me. Um, when you are day in, day out with the same person and you grow in an intimate relationship, um, we experience triggers. Our partner may trigger us. And it's not just one way, it goes both ways. Our partner says or does something that, whatever, it's off putting to us. And, and it's very convenient or very easy to slip into a pattern of blaming our partner or our spouse for the way we're feeling. And in fact, what it is whatever it is that they've said or done that triggered us, it really has nothing to do with them. It has to do with uh, not all the time, clearly, but um, it has more to do with us, and they're triggering or they're emoting a reaction within us that's based on our life experience, our individual life experience, and it has absolutely nothing to do with them. There are other cases where there's a genuine rift between with our partner, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a level of and this kind of goes to Barry. I worked in this one particular facility, and they had some amazing resources for us, not only from an academic level, but on a person to person level. And this gentleman Barry, I can't remember his last name, um, but Barry was a cool dude, man, and he was one of those people who have like all. I mean, dude, it was like he had titles after his name, doctorates this and masters in that, and boop 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 boop. He was a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst. Uh, I mean, just like it was like this dude, and you go into his office and you look behind his desk and all his like all of his certifications, and it was a bit overwhelming at times. But in this particular facility, um, we were required as staff members to have weekly check-ins. Now, I can't imagine this guy's workload, caseload, because he wasn't only addressing and having counseling time, therapy time, whatever with the residents. He was also doing that with us as the staff members, and But he was cool, man, and just I recall, you know, like sitting across from his desk and remembering like he looked like Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead. Really, just a cool dude, you know, Birkenstocks, the whole thing, man. He had this like, you know, he had this aura about him, and he was definitely the predisposition, the personality to do what he was doing. He was very academic, very intelligent, super intelligent, but also like extraordinarily down to earth, very approachable. But we were required as staff members to meet with him once a week. As staff members, they would post something, you know, this is your appointment time with Barry, this is your appointment time with Barry. And the idea or the premise behind that was working in that kind of environment. It could be intensely stressful, and it would give us an opportunity to one to vent or offload or to process a stressful event. If there was an incident with a resident, in particular, if there was an incident with a resident that we were personally involved in, we might go in there too. And it wasn't like an interrogation. It genuinely had more to do with, Scott, how did that incident make you feel? And what they were driving at was objectivity for for an efficient facility. You want your staff to be viewing the client from an objective standpoint and not to personalize things. And many folks who get into that kind of line of work have past experience, past trauma, and they find it beneficial to engage in that kind of career choice, not only to help others, but to gain a better understanding of self. And these talk sessions, these processing sessions with Barry, you know, for example, you know, I might have had some weeks were fine, you know, other weeks, you know, there might have been something stressful. And well, how did that make you feel, Scott? How do you feel? And, you know, how do you feel about Joe, the client? And that was the pivotal part, because the incidents that we would be privy to might bring up something within us that was painful. And they wanted to be sure that we were aware of it as staff members, that we were maintaining our objectivity, and that we weren't treating the client any differently, that we were treating the client professionally, um, from a point of understanding, compassion, healing, whatever. And that, I don't know, hang on one second. I got to shut that off. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Um, they wanted to make sure that we were treating the client fairly and that we hadn't lost our objectivity, because a traumatic event within the facility could dredge up a lot of stuff for us, individually, collectively as staff members. Um, and it would give us the opportunity to process the incident without judgment, without losing our objectivity, and to help us as staff members identify that what we're experiencing is a trigger, but it's not the client that we're having the it's not the client that's the issue. It's the trigger that's the issue, if that makes sense. In order to maintain our objectivity. And I can speak from personal experience, um, where there were times in, and going back to the experience of my marriage, there were times in that experience where my partner and I would have some level of disharmony. And what were we individually really angry about the other person? Was it something genuinely that the other person did that was selfish, self-centered, uncaring, insensitive, whatever? Or were we angry at our partner because they triggered something within us? And you have to be a little bit more self-reflective in those cases, because it's easy. You pissed me off. Why did they piss you off? Because they triggered something in you. And it had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with me, or us. Boy. But those times in his office, and it was a weekly basis. It was all part of, and you had our supervisors, and it was like it was enforced, like, and you had to participate in that. You had to participate in that. And there were times where I would go in, and it was healthy to to offload, to whatever anger or frustration or confusion I had about a client, to offload that with him, and just assuring the fact that, breaking it down, why we, at the end of the day, again, it was all about treating the client with respect, objectively. But in recent days, I made a share yesterday as well. It's amazing sometimes how you get into a. I've been very meditative lately, and prayer, meditation. Um, think, the people in my life, in more recent years and days, and um, how I feel fortunate. There's we all have our own path, and I respect. I never really understood that, or fully understood it, or had the grasp that I do on it now. Sometimes loving people is letting them go. You know, it's amazing to me. Letting them go, giving them space to do what they need to do, and I need to do what I need to do. Um, but the time that I've had in more recent days to really, like, really look at myself, and um, come to some greater level of clarity. You know what? There's no end game. There's no. It does, at least it doesn't seem like to me that there's ever a finish line. There's only one finish line, and that's when we sign out. This process is just ongoing, lifelong, and I suppose on some level, there's been new relationships introduced into my life in more recent days and years, that I'm very grateful for. That people have mirrored me, and I can see some of the distortions within myself about how I viewed that relationship. And nine times out of ten, when there was a distortion or a level of confusion, it had to do with me. It wasn't that they were unclear, or they were, um, what's the word I'm looking for? but at the end of the day, that's what it has to do with us, and how, how we view and how we interact, and hopefully, we don't. Hopefully, I don't. Um, you know, hopefully, I don't damage a relationship. I know I have over the course of my life, and I know I've said and done things that were ignorant or insensitive. However, it wasn't out of malice or intentional cruelty. It was out of ignorance, and that's those moments like, oh, dude, you say or do something that you're not even aware that we're doing it, and that's unfortunate. But going back to Barry, um, and the benefit that I continue to find, and it was weird because it came in like gangbusters this morning. I was watching. What was I watching? And anyway, the like what it brought up for me is triggers, and triggers. And when I'm experiencing a trigger, why am I, is it am I genuinely, is it that person, or is it something within me? And again, 9 times out of 10, it is me. When that does happen, and a trigger oftentimes brings up old trauma, brings up fear, anger. Um, we're not, at least I speak for myself, we're not fully present. We're not fully present when we're responding to our environment or reacting to our environment from a place of fear or anger or defensiveness, aggression, any number of things. But to have a moment to step back, much the same way that we as staff members had the privilege, and it was a privilege to step back from the scene and express how did it trigger us, if it did trigger us, in what ways did it come out, and what did we um, see within ourselves, and to have Barry to talk to about those things. It's interesting because I find that many of the people that I have the privilege and I enjoy the interactions with, there's like a common theme of people being in service industries. And I don't mean service industries like, I mean service industries like service to humanity type fields, other social workers, counselors, people who are um, intently invested in healing modalities, and these are things that they offer, and or these are personal goals that they've set for themselves, and to honor, to we have to be kind to ourselves, but we also have to be aware that and it happened a lot. It happened a lot, given my history, my childhood, working with these kids, man, every day, every day. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't, but every day I was getting triggered in those environments. I'd have talk therapy with them, and they'd share an experience, or they were trying to work something out for themselves, and I'd like, oh geez, I remember when that happened to me, kind of thing. I wouldn't express that to them in a counseling session, but it was like, oh, there we go, oh, there we go, constantly being mirrored by these kids, and having the opportunity, having the privilege of having time to back away, time to have space, and to process with Barry. Um, I'd be willing to bet not many facilities offer that to their employees, and I can't tell you what a valuable resource that was at that time, and really giving me the authority within myself to identify and recognize when a client was triggering me, and to hammer down. Yep, they just triggered something within me. Remain objective, dude. Remain objective. This is about them healing. And as a side note, you get to address all your shit too, but not with them, with Barry. Oh boy, oh boy. I would, just the way I perceive, the way I'm like, I wish, and I know some of them do. They take time for themselves, and they do all sorts of wonderful things. And when they need to talk to somebody, they talk to somebody. When they need to take a break, they take a break. And um, I admire that, because um, I lose that objectivity. Uh, I lose that objectivity for myself, where uh, you got to show up, Scott. You got to show up. It's that old programming. You got to show up. No, I don't. I need a break. Um, I need a break from something. And usually 9 times out of 10, it's me. I need a break from myself. Whatever. Healing is fine, and reviewing things and going into deeper levels of understanding about ourselves. It's wonderful. It's healing, but it's exhausting at the same time too. It's exhausting. And there was something that I had. I was putting resources aside, and I feel like I've repurposed those resources, and I'd like to get up to Booth Bay Harbor. Uh, it's Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. It's an hour and 20 minutes north of here, and it's a wicked. You spend about maybe a half hour of that is on the highway. The rest of it is like these back roads, Route One. Going, and it's an easy ride. Booth Bay Harbor. Just to get, if any of you guys, Rogers and Hammerstein, I don't, Rogers and Hammerstein. There was a movie with Shirley Jones and Gordon McRae, Carousel, and they filmed that movie in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine, and it's it's a drink. This is like the town motto. And when I was in my drinking days, I loved going to Booth Bay Harbor, but I still like going there just because it's fucking beautiful. Booth Bay Harbor, Booth Bay Harbor, a fishing village with a drinking problem, or no, a drinking village with a fishing problem. There we go. But it's this great little town. About an hour and 20, and I just, there's been numerous times over the course of I'd prefer going on a cruise, but I don't see that happening. um, but Booth Bay Harbor is a nice place to go for a couple of days, especially before the tourist season really kicks off. And I feel on some level I've denied myself, for numerous reasons. Like, I got to work, I got this, I got that. Oh, my life's so fucking busy. What? I can't take time to take breath. But I really, I genuinely feel like it's time for sorry, I will call you back later, Christine. um, I definitely need some downtime. you know Feet in the sand, go for one of the things in Boothbay Harbor that I really enjoy is they have sailboat cruises, and it's you can either go on the cruise or on the sailboat cruise as a passenger, or you can go on the sailboat cruise as a crew member for the experience. And I've done both, and there's just something like there's something. I think most of us have seen Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. You're on a fucking sailboat, and that the boat's on its side. And you're running through the water, and you're like, "I'm king of the world." It's one of those moments. Yeah, same thing like on a motorcycle, or not quite. Yeah, sometimes on a motorcycle, but on a sailboat. Geez, and the beautiful sailboats, and they usually offer a lunch, but to do something like that, and there's an awesome store there too in Boothbay Harbor. It's called Enchantments, and it's this old farmhouse and barn. The place is just it's huge, and they've converted it into like a new age hippie shop. And you can spend like hours in there with all the stuff, and just like kind of imagine and walk and daydream. And I mean, the Boothbay Harbor, it's dotted with all these little islands. I feel like I'm there right now. That's the interesting, and that goes back to Barry too. Working in that environment, I'm sorry, I should have shut that off altogether. Um, Working in that environment, uh, and that it was pretty much across the board with every facility that I ever worked at. We had at the end of my career, and you would accumulate every year that you worked, you would accumulate even more time off, and they didn't refer to it as time off or vacation time. They referred to it as wellness time, and I tend to agree with that. But at the end of my career, I had something ridiculous like 12 weeks off a year. Did I ever fully take advantage of that? No. In retrospect, I wish I had, because I know Barry did. It's a huge caseload, and to have the freedom to step away, and catch your breath, to relax, to let your shoulders drop, to ungrit your teeth, you know. Um, you know, there was something else too that you know I look over the course, I look over the course of my life, and in the process of healing, and I remember this one particular experience. This was in 2015, and I engaged a friend. She was a life coach, and she did some talk therapy. I mentioned this recently, and there was a traumatic event unfolding in my life, and I asked her if we could meet. She understood why I was coming to see her, and she said, "Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Maybe it's a little bit out of my modality or my practice, but I'm happy to talk to you." And through the course of, yeah, it was very beneficial for me. However, in retrospect, I look back and because she was a friend and also um, eh, she was a friend and we engaged on a professional level at the same time simultaneously. Um, it was intense for her to experience that with me. She was very kind, very understanding, very patient, and she went through the entire thing with me. But I do know that and afterward, a year passed, whatever, and and Scott, yeah, that was rough. I didn't know what to do for you. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't, but I was happy to listen. But it affected her. It affected her. It affected all parties involved. But the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes in our healing, unintentionally, again, unintentionally, without malice, like I would have done out of respect for my friendship with her. We are still friends, but out of my respect for her as a friend, I probably wouldn't do that again because it was tough on her. It's not okay. It's one thing that you can go to somebody's office, let's say a psychiatrist or somebody like Barry. I can go to his office in theory, a psychiatrist or a psychologist or psychotherapist. I can go to their office and completely vomit, right? And if they're professional, they're going to maintain a level of objectivity. They're not going to attach or personalize the experience, and they can step away because it's a professional exchange. They don't have to see me every day. They don't have to listen to me every day. I would, there's times where I check out. I don't want to see or hear myself. And I'll sleep. I'll have a marathon sleep session. Oh man. I have a lot of respect for you know I'm coming to just a different awareness of how I know I want to help my friends. I want to be available to my friends. I want to be of value to my friends as they reciprocate. As we mutually reciprocal. But it's not okay, at least in my experience, in the spirit of trying to heal myself where I'm hurting someone else, if that makes any sense. My intentions are I want to heal. I have the drive and the focus and the motivation to heal, but out of respect for certain relationships and friendships or family dynamics or um, you know it's not okay for us to heal and hurt people that care about us at the same time. For instance, there's certain things that I simply will not talk to my sister about, um, because I know it's going to be painful. It might bring something up, and I may be just trying to process something, but and in the spirit of healing, I'm trying to process something for myself, but insensitively, by bringing up a certain topic, I know that that's going to push a button for her. It's not okay for us to heal at someone else's expense. Is the point I'm trying to make, and I can see where I may have done that. You know, my intentions or whatever, but I can see where it makes me sad. I know what it is. I know what it's like to be. I know what it's like to hurt people intentionally. I've done that, and I know what it feels like when something is done maliciously or with intent. There's an element of cruelty about it. You are going out of your way to hurt somebody, and that sucks. But there's an equal dis-ease or discomfort when you realize that even in like through trying to do something, trying to heal myself, that I may have hurt people ignorantly, and I think it hurts just the same. That's not my intention. It doesn't make up for it, but maybe just being a bit more discerning, maintaining a level of objectivity, and seeking. If I have to deal with something, if there's something going on, being more discerning for myself and for the friends, family, whatever, out of respect for them. You know what? This is a heavy topic, whatever it is. This is a heavy topic, and I really should take this someplace else. Don't and it's not a question of trust. It's a question. It's about respecting a relationship, and respecting that person's feelings and experiences, and that something that I might express to them, even in the spirit of healing, could hurt them. Anyway, I want to smoke this cigarette. Hey, it says there's one person here. Are you still there? Oh, if you yourself are in a service position, such as a counselor, social worker, nurse, you know, um, um, in some form of a healing modality, and you offer those services to people, um, or you're in a relationship with somebody, just remember that sometimes when these people, when our clients or our loved ones trigger us, many times, it's not them that we're angry with or that we're disappointed in, or it's a certain aspect of ourselves, our character, our history, and they simply happen to be there, and they said or did something that emoted a reaction within us. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Um, and I have a responsibility to that person, to that relationship. If I genuinely value that relationship, I have a responsibility to myself in that relationship to heal from that, but not at their expense. So with that, I am going to go play out in the rain. Yesterday was brutal. It was hot. It was 85 degrees, and I think it said it felt like 98. Like there's like the temperature and then the real feel. And then the real feel was like 98 degrees. I got home yesterday, and my house was like an oven. So I put my air conditioner in. Anyway, gonna go try to enjoy some of this day and start really thinking. Building super at JCHA. What is JCHA, dude? But I'm gonna definitely start thinking about making a trip up to Booth Bay Harbor. Hey Scott, while you're here, dude, just man, put it out there to the universe. It's a long drive, I'm sure, from Punxsutawney to Maine. When I used to work for the community, we used to have to drive out there. It wasn't Punxsutawney, but it was like a 10-hour drive. It was a long ass drive from Maine to Pennsylvania, and it was like Western Pennsylvania, I think. And that's the place where they used to build the modular homes, and they would tractor trailer them out to Maine. It's a long ass drive, but I've got if you ever feel inclined and you want to spend some time by the beach, man, we're allowed. There's a lot of fucking rules and regulations. It's like an association or a condo association, whatever, and they have a lot of rules. You can have visitors for up to 2 weeks without declaring them a resident, and they're very strict about it. But if you're ever inclined, man, and you want to make a 10-hour drive, I have a brand new, refurbished bedroom, new paint. It still has like that new car smell. But if you're ever inclined to take a Shippenville, Shippenville, PA, I'll have to look that up. But if you're ever inclined to want to take a drive out here and spend a couple of days or spend some time by the ocean, there's some nice beaches here, dude. Everybody, a lot of people have this idea of Maine being like a rocky coast. And there are areas that are rocky, but the southern part of Maine where I live, it's like they're nice sandy beaches, man. It's I don't know if you're a beach person or whatever. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. You're welcome. Um, you know, if you need a break, I know I do, man. And Booth Bay Harbor is looking mighty good these days. Even just for like a weekend overnight, couple of days, go on a sailboat. But thanks for stopping. Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm gonna head out, smoke my cigarette, drink my coffee, and go run some errands. So peace, dude. Anybody seeing this? Thank you for being part of my life, and thank you for the lessons. Thank you. Some are wonderful and some are challenging, and it's a full package, man. It's a full package. Um, just simply being kind to one another. It's been quite a journey. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye for today, and who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'll be back. Been kind of on a roll. Peace that surpasses all understanding. I'm out.